Welcome back to another episode of Creature Madness. And I'm Gus from Askewed Reviews. And slowly but surely, I am making my way back to being up to date on these. As if you don't know, Creature Madness is a creation by my friend Matthew over at Horror Madness, where he invited a few of his friends to basically create a movie club where all of us watch the same creature feature film and then we each do our own review on that movie. And I've been behind for quite a few weeks, but with this episode, I'm getting closer. Now, aside from myself and Matthew, the other members of this club are Amariah, Jen, Karen, Ryan, and Ashley. And speaking of Ashley, it was her turn to choose the movie that we all reviewed. And her choice for creature feature was the 2016 film Train to Busan, directed and co-written by Yeon Song-ho. So right away, I will give everyone a heads up. Train to Busan is a Korean film, so it does have English subtitles, but it's not in English. So if you have an issue with that, this may not be the film for you. However, though, if you're willing to go and watch a movie that has subtitles, this is definitely one to check out. It is a zombie flick, but it is way more than that. There's so much emotion in this movie, so much story and characterization. And you know what? Let me tell you more about the concept to see if this is one that you want to check out for yourselves. So, this film takes place in South Korea. Now, we do have a random assortment of characters that we meet throughout the film, but one of the main ones is Seok Woo, who very much puts his job before everything else, including his marriage and, unfortunately, his daughter. However, though, he does want to become better about this and do better for his daughter. Now, she has decided that she wants to celebrate her birthday in Busan with her mother. Seok Woo is very reluctant to do this as he really has some work he needs to get to, but he sees how important this is to her, so he decides that he's going to travel with her to Busan to drop her off. Now, this, of course, is not going to be an ordinary train ride. Even from the beginning of the film, we start to get little snippets that something is definitely amiss. Things and people are starting to come back to life from death and at a very rapid pace. And now, this virus that's going around causing people to fly off into a rage is just spreading through everyone so very quickly. And the worst part is, some of the people on this train have this virus. The story jumps around to different individuals or even small groups that are on this train as they stop at different locations, either because they have to or because they're trying to see if it's safe. And then, of course, the inevitable issue of these zombies just rushing at everyone, trying to bite them and attack them. So will Seok Woo, his daughter, and these other survivors manage to make it all the way to Busan, or will all of them end up joining the army of the dead? So if you haven't seen this film before, you are definitely missing out. There's so much to enjoy about it. It has a great story, really interesting characters that develop in different ways that some of them you like more or like less by the end of this story. There's also just really adrenaline fueled moments that gets your heart racing, and all of it is done beautifully. The way that the creatures look, the way that the scenes are played out, it is done very well. Also, this is one of the few horror movies that I can say I absolutely cry from. There's a moment, and I won't say which, just in case you haven't seen this movie before, but I cannot help but start sobbing from this movie because it's such an emotional gut punch. But that's part of what I liked about this movie is that there is so many strong moments. So, at least for me on my scale, I'm giving this film a 5 out of 5. Now, I am aware of the fact that there is technically a sequel film. I have not watched it yet, but I plan on doing so this year. Also, if you have seen this film, let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Here comes the point in my version of Creature Madness, by the way, that I give a spoiler warning, as I go more in depth about the creatures that appear in the film. Mind you, there are zombies in this movie and really nothing else, but in case you don't want to learn more about the movie, go and check that out and then come back to this, or just stick around if you're a glutton for punishment. When it comes to zombie movies, for the most part, a lot of times zombies are just zombies. But depending on the story, the creator, the director, whoever makes the choices, they'll add some differences sometimes. And with this one, there was a couple, but in general, I would categorize these as kind of just rage zombies, not trying to call back on 28 Days Later and things like that, but there are usually these slow, very lumbering moving zombies, and then there's other ones that'll just run at you full speed, and that's what these are. I can't remember any instance where just like a scratch from them caused a problem. I think it does have to be through the bite with these ones. But with that, the infection does happen extremely quickly. If the bite does manage to kill you in that same instance, you are almost immediately back up as the undead. However, though, if you're bitten and you're alive, you do become undead, but it's a little bit more gradual. The zombies in this movie don't seem to be super strong, but because they are just adrenaline fueled, they don't care about what happens to themselves, so they will come at you full force. They are relatively quick, somewhat clever as they can kind of manage to do things, not open doors, but somehow become a giant weight on the back of a train. Wait till you see that scene if you haven't already. And then there's the really big difference, in my opinion. They have an issue with darkness or low light, to where if it becomes relatively dark, they can't really see much and are then based on sound. I really enjoyed the choices that they made for the zombies in this movie, but I would never want to live in this experience. If I ever ended up in a zombie apocalypse, give me the really slow ones that I can actually get away from. I hope you enjoyed my review for this film, and if you'd like to see what everyone else in the group did for theirs, just look up the hashtag Creature Madness.